someone's in conflict. So what happens is our story of them can get narrow. Okay? I have a neighbor. Let me tell you about my neighbor. My neighbor lives in America and is a businessman. I live in Israel. I come from Jerusalem. I didn't tell you that. I actually was born in Australia. Melbourne, Australia. Anybody here from Melbourne, Australia? Nobody is born in Australia. Huh?
Unfortunately not.
Unfortunately, okay. Alright, I'm originally from Australia. But I live in Israel, I live in Jerusalem, and I have a neighbor from America who lives in Chicago, and he comes to Jerusalem for the holidays, and lives in an apartment right above me. Alright. Now my neighbor, I don't really know him very well, but he looks like a nice guy. Seems like a nice guy, pleasant. I saw him once in the synagogue. Nice man, very nice man, pleasant man. Greeted him a few times. I know he has a family, wife, he has some kids. Well, his apartment, he did some plumbing work in his apartment, and it started to leak through our roof into my living room, into our living room. All right. So it caused a little bit of damage. Then it caused some more damage, and caused some more damage, and caused, maybe $1,000 worth of damage. Maybe. All right. So I sent him an email because he wasn't living there. He was living in America. I sent him an email. I said, "Listen, you've got some problem here with your apartment. It's leaking into my apartment. It's some damage." So he sends me back an email, and he says, "Yeah, it's not my problem. The whole building has a problem. Everything's leaking in this building, and the management of the building has to fix it up. And I'm not going to do anything to fix your apartment because my apartment. I also have water leaking into my apartment. You know, why should I go fix your apartment?" So I said, "Hang on a second." I sent him back at him. I said, "Hang on a second. If you have water in your apartment, I'm sorry you have water in your apartment, but your water is coming into my apartment." And that's your water. And it's very clearly your water. Everybody can see that it's your water. It's coming from your place. It's coming into my apartment. You're going to fix it. And then he sent me back an email. I said, "Oh, the whole thing has, but there's water all over the place. Water everywhere." All right. Okay, this is my conflict. Okay, I feel this kind of at the time. Since then he paid, by the way, But at the time I kind of felt it also. My neck and around the upper part of my torso. Well, what happens to the way, can anybody put themselves into my shoes in this story? Yeah? Raise your hand if you can put yourself in my shoes. Okay. Most people can put themselves into my shoes. Okay, now what happens to the way I think about my neighbor, okay, when I get into a situation of conflict? And let me phrase the question a little better. Does it widen the story of how I think about my neighbor, or does it narrow the story of how I think about my neighbor? It narrows. Okay, in other words, my neighbor is a nice guy. He's from Chicago. He's a businessman. He has his hair kind of slicked back. He's friendly and happy and family man. And now all of a sudden, after my conflict situation, I have a tendency to go, my neighbor is being stubborn, he's in the wrong, and is leaking into my living room. He's leaking into my living room, my neighbor is. He's a leaking neighbor. He's a leak. That's all he is. He's just a leak. He's damaging. Right? So notice how when we get into conflict, our stories get smaller. Now, one of the things that lawyers do is because they're lawyers, so their job is to focus on the law. So when you go to a lawyer, if I go to a lawyer and I say, "Oh, Mr. Lawyer, this guy is a really nice guy. He wears his hair slicked back, and he has some kids, and he lives in the apartment above me." And the lawyer says, yes, get to the point. And he wears jeans on Wednesdays, and and the lawyer says, yes, you're paying for my time, but And I say, yeah, and then I looked, I was in my living room and I looked up and there was this leak there, and the leak, you know, it came from his, you know, it came from the neighbors, and the lawyer says, how do you know it came from the neighbors? Right? He wants his proof right there. What the lawyer's doing is the lawyer wants a story that's like a laser beam, right? It's focused and clear and powerful, right? Because it's got to convince the judge. So he doesn't care who the neighbor is, how many kids he has, where he lives, what he does for a living, or what sort of haircut he has. Okay? So what happens in situations of conflict is people will tend to think like lawyers, and they zero in, and all of a sudden my neighbor becomes my leak, my problem, right? The problem person. So this is an important thing to remember. One of the things that we do in mediation is we do the opposite of what the lawyers do. What we want to do, and often when a story has been in court, when a situation has been in court, it gets shrunk, right? It gets shrunk to this size. And if you can, right, then what you want to do is to slowly, you know, you kind of take pliers or something, you get the story wide again. Right? You widen it out and you enrichen it. And you start asking questions. Well, who is this person? Or what do they do? And what sort of person are they? And you start to get a sense of the richness of the story. And when you get a sense of the richness of the story, everything can change.